Live at 5, the highly anticipated and highly controversial public impeachment hearings open on Capitol Hill. Our political reporter Heather Sullivan is there with how Virginia's congressional delegation is reacting.
It's a first alert weather day as Central Virginia dealing with the coldest temperatures of the season. And tonight it will only get worse.
We are live with local breaking news out of Louisa County. A 16-year-old now charged in a deadly home invasion. Why investigators say he was no stranger to the couple he targeted.
And live at 5, school redistricting battles move to the West End. Why parents are marching to Godwin High School to make their point.
On your side, this is NBC 12 Live at 5.
A deep freeze continues its firm grip here in Central Virginia. Temperatures right now hovering around 35 degrees. And while that's above the freezing mark, when you look at the wind chill, you'll understand why it doesn't feel that way.
This first alert weather day continues into the night because the deep freeze is not over yet. Meteorologist Jim Duncan tells us how low the temperatures are about to drop.
Yeah, last night we were down in the lower 20s, 23 here in Richmond and teens outlying areas. Today for the high, by the way, we made it to the upper 30s, at least 38. Waiting the official high, but we did not make that record low high temperature that we thought, but we were close. But you know, you're not striving to set records, obviously. Cold temperatures overnight tonight, as you mentioned, even colder weather ahead. As we look into our forecast crystal ball for tonight, temperatures could get even lower than they were last night. Don't forget, you can get weather anytime on our NBC 12 weather app with current temperatures as well. Here's our satellite, or our sky cam rather, this afternoon. A little bit of cloudiness kind of on the horizon here. Just a pretty nice day, though, in terms of visuals. It looked nice. It was crisp, yes, when we walked outside. And right now, as you mentioned, Carl, it's 34, mid-30s for our temperatures. So it's very chilly. Mid-30s most spots right now, already getting very close to freezing. Collegiate School at 33. Our highs today, again, around 38 degrees. The record low high temperature 37, so close to that. And that radar picture, obviously clear scans for us right now. So your evening forecast, basically looking at temperatures dipping quickly into the 20s, mid-20s by 10 o'clock tonight. Very cold later on. I'll have your full forecast ahead. Carl and Kurt.
All right, thanks so much, Jim. Well, it's a historic day on Capitol Hill. For the first time in 2 decades, an impeachment inquiry into a president is documented by public hearings.
Today, 2 career diplomats gave televised testimony into President Trump's dealing with Ukraine. Live at 5, political reporter Heather Sullivan on Capitol Hill with more on these hearings and how Virginia's congressional delegation is reacting. Heather.
This was the first day that the doors were thrown open. The cameras were turned on so that the American public could hear for themselves what had been said behind closed doors in the impeachment hearing so far. We had 2 diplomats who testified today in the inquiry into whether President Trump applied pressure by withholding military aid from Ukraine to get the Ukraine government to investigate his political rival Joe Biden and his son Hunter. Up first was Bill Taylor. He's the top U.S. diplomat in Ukraine, and here's a look at what he had to say.
As a general principle, I do not believe the United States should ask other countries to engage in selective, politically associated investigations or prosecutions against opponents of those in power.
Ukrainians did not owe President Trump anything, and holding up security assistance for domestic political gain was crazy.
Also, President Trump said that he did not watch today's hearings. He was talking with reporters in the Oval Office today while he was meeting with the president from Turkey. He said that he was too busy today to watch the hearings.
I did not watch it. I'm too busy to watch it. It's a witch hunt. It's a hoax. I'm too busy to watch it. So I'm sure I'll get a report. There's nothing. I have not been briefed. No, there's nothing there. I see they're using lawyers that are television lawyers. They took some guys off television. You know, I'm not surprised to see it because Schiff can't do his own questions.
We also sat down with some of our local Congress members on both sides of the aisle to get their reactions to these impeachment inquiry hearings. And as you can imagine, they have very different reactions to what they're hearing about whether the evidence does or does not prove that there was a quid pro quo. But one thing that our Congress members do agree on, they both like that today's testimony was public and future testimony will be public, because they say that Americans can hear the testimony themselves.
We are demonstrating to the American people that this is an effort to get to the bottom of this really hard question of what happened, what did or didn't occur related to the president's action. I think it's vitally important that the American people be able to see that and be able to recognize that both sides of the aisle are engaged.
Yes, it's worthwhile, because at this point I think the American people are going to see how this turns. And I think the Democrats have made a political calculation that they can turn this to obstruction off of quid pro quo. And that's what, again, the American people need to see.
Former Ambassador Marie Yovanovitch will testify in another public hearing on Friday. Also, the Republicans today asked Adam Schiff, the chair of this committee, to subpoena the whistleblower to testify publicly. He said that he won't do that for a public hearing, but he said he'll consider doing it for testimony behind closed doors. We will keep you posted on the very latest, and we'll have much more coming up at 5:30 and 6. Live at the Capitol in Washington, D.C., Heather Sullivan, NBC 12 News.
Okay, Heather, thanks. We'll check back at 5:30.
Meanwhile, we are staying on top of breaking developments following a deadly home invasion in Louisa. Tonight, a 16-year-old is now charged with shooting an elderly man to death and wounding his wife. That teenager was arraigned this afternoon. Enzo Domingo sat in on that hearing and has more on the charges the 16-year-old now faces. Enzo.
That's right, Carla and Kurt. We know that 16-year-old is facing multiple charges right now, including first-degree murder, breaking and entering, armed robbery, and aggravated malicious wounding. Now, his name has not yet been released because he is 16, he's a juvenile, and he's also not being charged as an adult, at least not yet. Now, the victims have been identified as 83-year-old Roger Payne, who was shot and killed, and 73-year-old Nancy Payne, who did survive. Now, in court, we got more details about the hours leading up to the shooting. Commonwealth's attorney Rusty McGuire says that the teen lived across the street from the Paynes and was a frequent visitor. Now, investigators say he went over to the house twice yesterday, but the second time he had a gun. Now, McGuire says the teen told the couple to get dressed before taking all the phones from the home, and investigators say he then brought them to nearby train tracks where he shot them with a sawed-off shotgun. Now, the suspect's father was in court today, and he said this isn't the boy that he knew.
So all I can say is I'm sorry to the family, and as far as my son, you know, I love him, and we just got to figure out what's going on. You know what I mean? I just don't know what's going on, and you know what I mean? That's all I got.
Now, we did also hear in court that the suspect was under probation for another crime at the time of the shooting. Now, the sheriff's office tells us that Mrs. Payne is currently resting, as she did go through one surgery and she's coming up with a second one related to her injuries. Now, coming up at 6, we share more details about this crime, plus we talk to a neighbor about what they saw yesterday afternoon. Now, we are live out here in Louisa County. This is Enzo Domingo, NBC 12.
All right, Enzo, thank you. Dozens of parents in Henrico's West End are marching to Godwin High School tonight. They are protesting plans that could change which schools their children end up attending. Tonight, live at 5, Henrico reporter Karina Bolster, live in a neighborhood off Ridgefield Parkway. Karina, tell me about their concerns.
Well, their major concern right now, Kurt, is proximity. The neighborhood I'm in right now is exactly 1 mile away from Godwin High School. But under 2 drafted maps for this area, high school students in 2021 would be sent to Tucker High School, more than 4 miles away. Now, under these 2 new maps, which were released at last week's redistricting meeting in the East End, parents will now have the opportunity to view them at Godwin High School tonight. But it's parents in these neighborhoods around Godwin which could be feeling changes in the future, which is why they're gathering tonight to march to the school to show committee members how close they are.
We are all walking together as a neighborhood, and we're all very passionate about making sure that we are able to continue to have active lifestyles and for our kids to be able to safely walk to school if they'd like to do that.
Now, this redistricting process is being done for a variety of factors, including overcrowding. Based on 2018 enrollment numbers, Godwin High School is over capacity. Now, the march is expected to start here in this neighborhood right around 5:30. Ahead at 6, we'll give you more coverage of that march over to Godwin High School. And you'll also hear the school system's response to parents demonstrating against this redistricting process. Live at 5 in Henrico, Karina Bolster, NBC 12 News.
All right. Thanks so much, Karina. Well, in less than an hour, the VCU Rams look to take down their former coach. Sports director Mark Davis joins us now live from the Siegel Center, where fans are already streaming in to see the Rams face LSU. Mark.
Yeah, Carlo and Kurt, you know, the energy always high in here inside the Siegel Center, but tonight expected to be a little extra hyped up as Will Wade makes his return as the head coach of LSU. Now, Wade leading the Rams for 2 years before departing in the spring of 2017 for LSU. We have seen other coaches come back here with their shiny new Power 5 jobs. We had Jeff Capel, Anthony Grant, Shaka Smart, all came here and received standing ovations. Now, tonight, do not expect Wade to get that kind of receptions. Many fans here not very happy with the way he departed on that terms. Plus, during his 2+ years in Baton Rouge, he has become quite a controversial figure in the world of college basketball. We're going to have more on that coming up at 5:30. But fans have been streaming in here since about a little bit 4:30 p.m. maybe a little before 4:15 or so. The student section is filling up. They have their creative signs to welcome him back. This is going to get packed house, expecting the 137th straight sellout here at the Siegel Center tonight. Coming up at 5:30, we're going to talk about Wade and his controversy, plus Mike Rhodes' thoughts on keeping up with Wade through that tough time. We are live at the Siegel Center, live at 5 in Richmond. I'm Mark Davis, NBC 12 News.
Thanks, Mark. Live at 5, eviction rates still too high in Richmond. So Mayor LeVar Stoney is forming an eviction task force to address the issue. The task force includes members of the NAACP, the Legal Aid Justice Center, and VCU RVA Eviction Lab, among others. Stoney says it will be tasked with coming up with ways to keep these folks from losing their homes. The announcement comes after the RRHA announced it was halting evictions for people living in public housing following an apparent uptick. And also in Richmond, no decision will be made on that massive Navy Hill project this year. The Times-Dispatch is reporting that City Council has postponed a vote on the $1.5 billion development proposal until 2020. Plans call for a new arena to replace the Richmond Coliseum, along with thousands of new apartments, new retail and office space, and a new GRTC transfer station. Council President Cynthia Newbill says a vote now would have been premature since an advisory commission is set to deliver recommendations sometime next month.
In less than an hour, an independent security firm investigating the Virginia Beach mass shooting will make its findings public. The firm Hilliard Hens started conducting interviews and researching the shooting back in July. Families are hoping the firm will have answers as to why a gunman shot and killed 12 people. A police update in September laid out the timeline of the shooter's actions, showing he killed 10 people before the first 911 call was made. But family members of the victim still want to know why he did it.
Did not just decide one day to go in there and shoot all those innocent people. He did not. Nobody does that.
I don't think any of us want to accept the fact that they want to just say, we can't find a motive. There's one.
Family members of victims say they believe there was a hostile work environment and culture that contributed to the shooting. Hilliard Hens investigators previously said they are looking into these claims. That report will be made public at 6 o'clock tonight.
The second teen is sentenced for his role in a deadly Richmond robbery. Tyshawn Andrews will spend the next 15 years behind bars for the murder of Joshua Gray. Andrews pleaded guilty in September to second-degree murder. He was 15 at the time that Gray was killed in 2018. Another teen, D'Amico Pressy Robertson, is serving 2 decades on robbery charges in this case. Gray was killed trying to sell an iPhone.
Live at 5, a dying veteran's wish granted. How a Virginia community pulled off a special fishing excursion for a Marine in the final stages of Lou Gehrig's disease.
But first, a restaurant owner is the latest victim of a scammer pretending to be from Dominion Energy, coming up what local businesses should be on the lookout for so you don't fall for it next.
The bitterly cold weather means more people are using space heaters, candles, and fireplaces to keep warm, and that usually means an increase in house fires. Well, tonight we are on your side with a good way to ensure your home is safe. Volunteers with the Virginia Department of Fire Programs are staffing our Cold 12 Center lines. They want to tell you about a program called the Metro Chiefs Hotline, where someone will come to your home and do a free fire home safety check. Programs like these have contributed to a drop in fire-related deaths nationwide.
We've made a huge impact on that, 10,000 per year. We're now down below 3,000 per year in the United States, people dying from fire. But in the Commonwealth of Virginia, to date, we've had 44 citizens of the Commonwealth lose their lives in fire. And as far as I'm concerned, that's 44 too many.
Again, 345-1212 is the number to call to get more information about someone coming out to do a free home fire safety check. Again, this is free. The phone lines are open until 6:30.
5 at 5, a restaurant owner gets an expensive lesson when she became the latest victim in an ongoing scam by someone impersonating Dominion Energy. On Your Side, investigator Rachel DePompa shares her story as a warning to others.
Jennifer Conlon runs Amici's Italian Bistro. During the dinner rush on Saturday, a phone call changed her night.
Good afternoon, Amici's. Got an automated call on my business phone saying that it was Dominion and that within 30 minutes my power would be going down for non-payment.
The message included an after-hours line to call with questions, and Conlon had plenty.
I knew I wasn't due yet. He said that Dominion had changed their billing cycle and that I must not have gotten an email about it.
She says they had her account number and balance due. She needed to make a payment over the phone, and she was told a credit card would not work.
They said that it would take 24 hours for it to be processed, and by that time I would probably lose my power.
The supposed Dominion agent told Conlon she could pay $1,100 by money card.
I started to question, but then I look out and I see a restaurant full of people, so I panicked.
She bought the cards, gave the numbers, and even got a confirmation number for her transaction.
They said to call Dominion on Monday to make sure my account was credited, so I did. Dominion had no idea.
Conlon realized she'd been scammed. She called the fake Dominion number back to confront the scammer herself and shared that call on Facebook.
I'd like to know if you are part of Dominion Energy.
Okay, why is that? What happened, ma'am?
The scammer eventually hung up, leaving Conlon on the hook for the payment she made over the weekend.
Electric bill twice. And in a business like this, everybody knows that's not easy.
We brought you this story from our sister station in Charleston because this scam is happening all over. The power company also wants to remind customers it will never threaten to turn off your service immediately, insist on payment over the phone, and it won't ask you to pay with a gift card. For the On Your Side investigators, Rachel DePompa, NBC 12 News.
Accurate, reliable, breaking weather specialists. This is NBC 12 First Alert Weather.
All right, there it is, the beautiful shot of a gorgeous sunset on a cold November day, very much like mid-January with these temperatures this afternoon. But just again, a pretty sunset taking shape. A little bit of kind of stratiform clouds, alto stratus out there in advance of a system way to the south, but we're not going to see much of this tonight. I think overall it's just going to be flat out cold. 34 degrees our temperature right now after highs in the upper 30s this afternoon. Very low dew points, low humidity. Again, most readings upper 20s to lower 30s now. Falling off pretty quickly. Louisa, by the way, last night was down to 15. Farmville was 18 early this morning. And we have very dry air in place, dew points really low. Now, these numbers, when you're talking single digit or low teen dew points, that is like a desert-like dry air mass, and very dry air just enhances the temperature drops during the nighttime hours. That, along with clear scans on radar. We do have a tiny bit of cloudiness. I think that will kind of break up tonight, though. So the conditions fairly ideal for a cold one tonight. Then as we get into tomorrow night and early Friday, watching a southern system developing pretty quickly over eastern Texas. That'll increase our rain chance Thursday night into early Friday. That eventually becomes a Carolina coastal storm, but far enough to the east it doesn't bring us any weather, but it will also help to increase our winds a little bit. Inland areas for Friday night, a bit more for Saturday. It could be quite gusty winds, and coastal areas could be looking at gale warnings in effect this weekend. Not in effect now, but this weekend, be aware of that along the Chesapeake Bay and all coastal areas too. 22 degrees will be our low tonight here in town, colder outlying areas. Tomorrow's forecast after a cold start, midday we're in the mid-40s, highs in the upper 40s, so it'll be a little warmer than it was today. As we look at your hour-by-hour forecast tonight, just clear skies, cold temperatures into early tomorrow morning. Through the day tomorrow, sunshine early, then increasing cloudiness as we get into the later part of the day, and then hints of some rain coming in tomorrow evening and overnight Thursday night into early Friday. This is 7 o'clock Friday morning. Should move on out pretty early if we get any of that rain, and then maybe some partial clearing into the start of the weekend. Here's your 7-day forecast. Again, rain chances increasing a bit into Friday. Saturday, of course, we have the the Richmond Marathon, rather. It looks like it'll be mostly cloudy and quite cold out there for that. Now back to you, Kurt and Carla.
All right, thanks so much, Jim. Still ahead on Live at 5, the real story behind what appeared to be the smoothest steal in TV history. What we're learning about this thief who swiped an ice cream cone on live TV. Live at 5, Virginia received $500,000 to help more minorities graduate college. Governor Northam made the big announcement in Norfolk this morning. Virginia is the 4th state to receive the $500,000 grant from the Lumina Foundation. The goal is to boost the college graduation rate among Black and Hispanic students by 5 percentage points over the next 4 years.
A sticky finger hockey fan pulls off one of the smoothest steals in TV history. Check out what happened during the Carolina Hurricanes game Monday night. A fan decided he wanted a sweet treat using the 5-finger discount, so he reaches over and grabs another fan's ice cream out of his hand and takes a bite. But before he can replace it, the other fan notices the cone is gone. Here's what we later learned. The two guys in that video are friends, and they were just pulling a prank on one another. It was not staged, and the prankster ended up buying his buddy a new ice cream cone. Good for him.
Right.
And what's smooth? Well, now a story that will warm your heart. A Virginia community rallies around a veteran with a terrible disease.
Lynn Stiles, United States Marine Corps, friends forever.
The community organized a special fishing expedition for retired Gunnery Sergeant Daryl Stiles. The Marine Corps veteran is in his final stages of Lou Gehrig's disease. Now, it's been years since Daryl could get out on the water, so volunteers with the group Veterans Fishing Adventure gave this Marine a trip to remember. His entire family was by his side.
It was beyond touching. For them to take the time to coordinate all of this and do that for Daryl, it can't be replaced.
Now take a look at Daryl. This was just 3 years ago. He was full of life. It's a tragedy how quickly ALS robbed him of his ability to move or speak, but his mind is still intact. He can hear and understand every word. We're told he is still able to smile as well, and he was smiling a lot during his special day. Very nice.
Oh, nice. We're moments away from the news at 5:30.
Diane Walker standing by with a preview. Diane?
Hey guys, not everyone at VCU has forgiven Will Wade for leaving the Rams for LSU. The question now is whether he will hear about it when he returns to the Siegel Center with his new team. We'll have a preview of tonight's big game, which begins in just under an hour. Plus more concerns over the health of Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. We'll tell you why she is once again missing from the bench. Heather?
I'm Heather Sullivan, live at the Capitol. I'll have complete coverage coming up of the first day of public testimony in the impeachment inquiry into President Trump's dealings with Ukraine, and we'll show you what he has to say about it.